Good evening, everybody. We are back on the scene. This is Joe Ryan, and tonight, even though it's hot in the middle of baseball season, we're going to start talking about high school football. Tonight we have Stamford's Jamar Greene and Westhill's Joe DeVellis here to talk to us about the upcoming high school season, the changes in the FCAC, and what we can hopefully expect from the Blackhawks, or the Black Knights, and the Vikings this year. Hey, fellas, welcome tonight. How you doing?
Good.
Good, Joe. Thanks for
All
having
right.
us.
Pro camps start next week, and we all know for football coaches it never stops. Let's catch us up. What's been going on so far? I know you did the Grip It and Rip It a couple weeks ago. What goes on during the summer for you guys?
We do morning workouts. We get up at 6 a.m. and Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and we're strength and conditioning. We run, get them in shape, and then we hit the weight room till about 8:30. So we go from about 6:15 to about 8:15.
You know, FCAC football is one of the toughest football conferences around here. You guys have been well versed in it. What is it? What can a team do, or how big is the summer preparation for a team?
Yeah, I mean, it's really important to get our guys around, just to get everybody familiar with each other, whether it's in the weight room, like Coach said, or at 7-on-7s, stuff like that. Just the more that the kids are around each other and kind of building that camaraderie, I mean, I think that's the most important part of the summer workouts and stuff like that.
For you guys, I mean, the FCAC, unfortunately, people from the outside, when they talk FCAC football, they always talk New Canaan, Darien, Greenwich, but there's other teams in there, and it seems to be this glass wall between those 3 or 4 teams that are highly successful programs. You can't put them down really, but I mean, it seems like they take away from what the other teams in the league go through. So let's talk about the experience of being one of those teams in the FCAC, your expectations for your team, how you put your program together, the frustrations, those kind of things. Talk to me about being part of the FCAC and being a 2-team or 3-team town, actually, compared to these other teams that have only 1 team. Let's talk about the challenges of those kind of things.
The biggest challenge is our talent is split in 3, sometimes 4 ways if you want to count King Little Haywood. So, we don't always get our best athletes from our town. So right off the bat, he may get the best 8th grade quarterback. I may get the best 8th grade running back. The top receiver may go to King Little Haywood. Mm-hmm. The lineman may go to Trinity. So, we're, big town, 4 different high schools with good football programs. That's the first challenge is, you're not always going to get the best talent. It's going to get split in 4 ways. So that's one of the big things.
Yeah, I think, also those teams that, like you mentioned, are teams that have, like, a lot of years at the top, and they've kind of established a routine where they're able to get their youth programs all on the same track and funneling them into the same high school, which is definitely a benefit. I think it provides a really different kind of challenge, not only competing with them, but just getting those guys ready at the 9th grade level and kind of going through their 4 years. Just because, I know there's a lot of instances where we'll get kids that are incoming 9th graders that have either never played before or never played with each other before. And so that's difficult for us. But again, it provides us a cool challenge to kind of see programs that are well established and give us something to work towards.
Yeah, like Mike Nazaro was in here, the lacrosse coach for Stamford with us, and he said, although my teams can't always beat a Darien, they're on the field competing against the best. And so that's something you can sell to the kids. The thing I'd like to talk about, because it doesn't get a lot of coverage anymore. For a while it was Stamford Youth Football. And that's your feeder program. And as you said, the advantage of a New Canaan is they have one midget league, and the high school, Marianelli or somebody can go down, and they really run their book, where it's always been in this town 4 or 5 different types of coaches feeding. They're not automatically going to call the plays like you like to run or the offense you like to run. How is Stamford Youth Football now compared to what it was a decade ago?
Well, they're now in the Fairfield County League, so we do have 1 8th grade team that goes in. They're going to play the New Canaans, the Dariens. I believe our 8th grade team, actually, they did go to the championship against New Canaan last year. So, but then once again, that talent's going to be split. Some of them are going to go to Westhill, some Stamford High, and I believe some Trinity. So, it's better. We're not beating up on each other anymore. We're actually getting an opportunity to go travel. I think another thing that benefits the Darians and New Canaans, they got legendary coaching. They got guys that's been around the game a very long time. I look up to those coaches as well, and it is a challenge, and it's a good challenge to know that we're always going to have a tough schedule, and you look forward to playing those teams, and you try to tell your kids, we want to be like that one day, where we can consistently win and be a strong program like a New Canaan, a Darien, a Greenwich.
Yeah, I think as far as the youth is concerned, I think that they made it's a nice change where it's, in the past it was all the middle schools kind of had their own teams, and the fact that now all of our 8th graders can play together is really beneficial. And I think, like Coach said, you could see our 8th graders this year ended up going to the championship in that Fairfield County League. So the talent is there when you have everybody together, for sure. And, I know we've been working with the 8th grade coach coming in this year to kind of just get even just generic kind of skills and drills down so they're not completely blind coming in as freshmen. So that's kind of an exciting thing that
Absolutely.
We're trying to, enhance in our city.
Yeah, it's definitely because that gives you a leg up. You get to see the kid. The kid knows what you do. Maybe, it comes to a practice or two, sees how you run the practice, the kind of offenses you run, the defenses you run. When you're looking at putting your programs together, Jamar, you've been around a while longer. Joe, you're in your second year. Mm-hmm. Is it about consistency in the program? How do you build consistency, especially in a program like Stamford or Westhill, when it seems like you get a good class coming in, you run that through, and then you get another good class freshman, you run that through. It seems like it's a cycle instead of the consistency. Is there any way to go away from a cycle and get it so every year you guys can compete with these guys?
I think it starts with the youth program. Now that our 8th graders are together, and we now have the opportunity to go down and work with them and start instilling the drills that we do, and our expectations are being filtered down to them now. And they're starting to understand what's important, how to behave on and off the field, and transition into the high school. I think it prepares them more and start establishing what kind of culture we're looking for.
I think football at the high school level is one of the more difficult to teach, one of the more difficult to get the kind of dedication you need out of players, because you coach girls lacrosse as well.
Yeah,
correct? And when you play when we run a basketball coach, you can have a kid on any given night and get 20 points.
Absolutely.
Hockey, a guy could score a goal, lacrosse, score a goal, baseball, get to be the pitcher, or get the key hit. Football is such a need for depth and also sacrifice. Linemen are never going to be in the paper. They're never going to be written up. They're never going to be, but they're so important to your team and the success of your team. How do you stress that, and how do you build that team first within the football players as compared to other sports?
I think with football, it's one of those unique sports where, like lacrosse, baseball, basketball, you play on Monday, you have a tough game, you got another one on Wednesday. Football, you get 10 of them in high school. You're going to practice a lot more than you're going to play. So practices are important because you're going to spend a lot of time preparing for your next game. You're playing one a week. You got a whole week to think about changes you need to make, adjustments you need to make, and preparation for that next game. So I think, building team camaraderie off the field is very important.
Yeah, it's the truest team sport there is. Like you were saying, in a lot of sports, you can have one or two guys that can really be dominant and really make you look good as a coach. Mm-hmm. That's just not the case as far as football goes. So, getting these guys to realize their importance, no matter how big or how small their role is, and kind of getting them to buy into the fact that, hey, your role is going to be, maybe you're the holder, and you have to be the best holder we have. Or maybe you're the right guard on this certain situation, and you need to be the best right guard that we have. And, the way that we've been trying to do that is celebrating every kid that we have anytime that good things are going down, because that's important. I mean, like you said, just kind of in this day and age of, the instant gratification and stuff, and that doesn't happen here. You're practicing 2.5 hours a day to play one game, and then you do it all over again. And even getting the kids to show up in the summer now, really with not much to work for game-wise. You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of, hey, this is so important. This is really important, and getting them, kind of building them up that way, and seeing how important it is. That's kind of the way that we have to start building these guys up.
Now, you're doing a lot of the 7-on-7 drills and things like that. What do you hope to get out of these 7-on-7s? What do they do for your team? How do they help the team overall, do you think?
I think 7-on-7 helps it helps the defense with coverages, recognizing route combinations, getting the players to drop back into their depths and where they need to be, and communication. It's just a shell. You don't have the linemen there, so it helps them with recognizing things like that. From an offensive standpoint, I think it helps with the timing of the receivers and the quarterback, and just getting the kids out there and building camaraderie and getting timing down and getting an opportunity to throw a football to your receiver, and you're working on your hands, and that is the positive part of it.
Yeah, I think it helps, like Coach was saying, the offense for sure, because it really makes it more difficult on them. The defense all knows that it's going to be pass, so we play a lot of the, even the guys that grip it and rip it, that they got 7 guys 15, 20 yards back, and so that definitely makes it more difficult for the offense in a good way. But kind of what we were talking about in the beginning, the more important thing is just getting them around each other and kind of seeing who wants to show up, and when we're competing, who's a gamer and who might be shying away from the spotlight still. So, after we went to Grip It and Rip It this week, that was kind of the most eye-opening thing for my staff and myself is, wow, this guy really showed up. This guy, you would hope that we would have given a little more, but that's the kind of thing you can start seeing now in the 7-on-7s, which is awesome, that you don't just go in blind at the end of August.
So, does it help introduce them to the speed of the game, or is it just basically more camaraderie and just working some kinks out? Does it really, do the players, do you get feedback from them where they find it useful? They go, hey, yeah, I walked in expecting this, but I got that. And do you get those kind of experiences with them?
You definitely get the speed of the game from a passing standpoint. And, there's some real competitive 7-on-7 programs.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So, it gets competitive and it gets challenging. So definitely it's a plus.
Yeah, and it's awesome that, we keep stressing it's not counting for your record in the fall, so it's good that we can get a lot of young guys looks, and kind of that's another way that we're trying to help hold kids on our team accountable. If you're not coming to morning workouts, you're not just going to come to play in the games, so it's like, again, okay, I need to do this to get that. I need to do this to get that, and being able to kind of measure our kids that way. And how bad do you really want to get to 7-on-7? Well, are you going to wake up in the morning? Then that's kind of another way we are trying to hold each other accountable.
And
go ahead.
Sorry. You can start teaching your playbook from a passing game standpoint as well, so that helps.
I was thinking that, the teaching aspect, the summer has got to be so important for you guys, because they, during the season, like you said, you get caught up in game to game to game to game. These kids, teaching them the expectations, getting them up to speed, you can do that during the summer. And if you don't have that dedication from those kids during the summer, they're behind the 8 ball when fall comes. Have you fallen into that in the past? And
yeah, I think especially where we are. The off season is where we do the most work, I would say.
Absolutely.
And that's kind of one of the biggest changes, kind of going from an assistant to a head coach right at the end of last summer, now to having a full off season, and kind of seeing, like, guys, if you guys want to compete here, this is the stuff that everybody's doing. This is just second nature to a lot of programs. So, starting in the weight room in the winter is something that, we were really stressing. And that's the stuff that I find taking up the most time for me is the off-season stuff. Because like you said, these guys are well-oiled machines, and they're kind of getting into the fall, and they're hitting it kind of at chapter 8 already. And we got to try to work up to that as much as possible.
The teaching aspect of a kid in football, how much is a kid behind the 8 ball if he hasn't played midget football before they get to the high school level? Is he really way behind, or is there a way to recover that if he's blessed with a lot of athletic talent?
You can definitely recover if a kid is, if a kid learns quickly and he's athletic, you can definitely catch him up to speed. But then you got to ask yourself, had he been playing, how much better would he have been?
Right.
It's hard when you get a kid that hasn't played before. You got to teach him just from square one how to get into a 3-point stance. Sometimes the rules of the game. I had a kid last year didn't even understand the game at all. Like, he didn't understand, first down versus second down and how many yards you had to get. We really had to teach that kid, and he was an athlete, and he ended up playing very well for our freshman program. But I asked myself, man, if this kid was playing since he was in 3rd or 4th grade, he might be an all-star already.
Right. I mean, I think that's one of, again, coming from where we are, where the youth might not be as involved, I think that's one of the biggest and most exciting challenges that we probably have is the kids that come in and are like, hey, I've never played before, but I want to try it, and it's for, like Coach said, as far as if they're athletic, they can play. It's really the mental issue, it's, you have to tackle this guy. And it's like, whoa, I've never had to really hit somebody or get hit before. So it's really getting them to kind of do that in a way that's safe and effective for everyone. But I mean, that's the challenge that we have. And I don't know the numbers. I mean, I would love to see at some of these more established programs how many first-year football players they have.
Right.
As opposed to, I would say we probably get close to a dozen kids every year that come out and are like, I want to play, and then it's like by week 4 or 5, they're in the rotation and they're playing, and that's another thing that we deal with that, again, it's why we coach. It's getting these guys kind of to buy into something and show them that you can make something of yourself with a lot of hard work.
And that's a good challenge, I know.
Sure.
Like at Stamford High, I wasn't the head coach at the time, and in fact, I was a youth coach, but Vladimir DeCoste never played the game before, came in under Kevin Jones and made it to the NFL. So
Right.
there's stories of success of kids that don't play until they get to high school, and that was one of them. I don't think he started playing until his sophomore or junior year. So.
Really?
Yeah, and the talent's there, and like you said, it's getting those guys to come out and say, hey, like, come play. Like, it'll be all right. And I get, a lot of, well, I'm a basketball player, and I only do this and I only do that. And it's like, well, you guys limit yourself because you never try. Who knows? You might be a sophomore or junior starting in high school and end up in the NFL one day.
Well, that's a good example. I mean, a lot of it, and I'm getting this feedback from all sports now, specialization. When we were playing, you'd play 2-3 sports. Now it's specialization. And do you think, well, first of all, are the kids missing out on the experience of playing other sports? And also, is that where a lot of the injuries are coming from overuse of the same muscles and muscle group? Do you think they lose something there?
I mean, I remember seeing some research on it that, it's using the same muscle in the injuries. I don't know exactly what the statistics say, but I'm one of those coaches that I like to see my athletes play multiple sports. Number one, it keeps them busy. I know that, that particular coach for whatever sport they're playing is making sure their grades are up and they're doing what they need to do, keeps them off the streets. And just, I love when a kid says, I play football, basketball, baseball, lacrosse, track. It's just, it keeps them busy, keeps them in shape, keeps them out of trouble, keeps them, doing well in the classroom. And then usually when I get them back for football, they're in tip-top shape.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like we were talking about, like I was talking about before, I think if your first sport is basketball, if your first sport is lacrosse, if your first sport is baseball, I mean, I don't think there's a better number 2 sport than football, just because of what we have just been talking about as far as having to be accountable, the delayed gratification, the physicalness of it, the getting your body right. There's a lot of stuff that goes into it for sure, but I really think it teaches all of the lessons that you end up using down the road. I mean, I think of playing high school football probably, I know we're still coaching it, so it's probably a little inflated, but I mean, I think about it every day, and it's just kind of what I've been built on, as far as what I believe in and stuff like that. So we hope that people want to play more than one sport, and we hope that the people that don't play football want football to be a sport that they want to play, because we have plenty of kids that we're saying, hey, go play, go play, go play, go play, and it would be awesome if we got that reciprocated kind of by the other coaches as well.
Yeah.
I know you guys have done a lot of work with conditioning and everything else. Has the stigma of injuries begun to maybe ease up a little bit with parents being afraid for their kids to come out and play football? Because I know you guys have both really taken the bull by the horn and tried to institute, the conditioning, using those on the helmets and things like that. Mm-hmm. Have you found that's worked in at least alleviating a lot of the nervousness for parents?
Absolutely. When I first started coaching, I was one of those coaches that I can't. I hope these guys don't get hurt. Mm-hmm. But now, it's one of those things where you can get hurt playing any sport. I don't really think about the injuries, and we coach in a way where, we're teaching these kids the proper way to tackle, keeping their head up, being safe. We're stretching them out. We got a trainer on the field at all times, and we're making sure they're hydrated, and we're taking care of their bodies. We give them the ice baths. There's so much technology and stuff out there, and things to help keep these kids in the best shape we possibly can.
Yeah, I mean, I just think as a sport, we've come a long way from putting 20 guys in a circle and one in the middle and running at them and just knocking heads, and everyone wants to say that that's the tough, but in reality, like you said, it got people injured and it kind of put a bad look on the sport. I think last year started it, and kind of this year you're hearing a little bit less of the concussion.
No, don't say the C word.
So true, yeah. And but we've taken a lot of precautions. We have the mandated bye in the middle of the week. We have mandated full contact, right? I mean, there's enough things out there. There's enough drills out there. We rarely, when we work on tackling, we rarely tackle players at full speed. We're tackling pool noodles. We're tackling tires. I mean, there's so much that goes into it now. It's a good challenge for us to kind of still get the work without the full contact stuff. And so I think it's starting to take an uphill swing kind of because of all the precautions that people are taking.
Let's talk about the upcoming season. Both you had tough seasons last year. Sometimes the season just snowball. I mean, injuries happen, and you can lose 2 or 3 games right in a row like that in football. And it's the sport that's the hardest to recover from. Mm-hmm. A 2-game, 3-game can overtake you. How's it looking? What are you coming into this season? I know you can't give me total expectations. Camp hasn't been there. Are you feeling more positive vibes coming into this year? What are you feeling about coming off last year?
I'm excited. Our staff is excited. Our players are excited because I think this is. I think we did a lot of good things in the past as far as our off season. I think this off season we've really kind of amped up our expectations in the classroom and on the field and in the weight room, and we've had a lot of kids respond to it, and a lot of kids kind of see results come from it, so they see that it works. We'll be young again, as far as we have a smaller senior class, but those guys have been the most dedicated senior class that I would say we've had in at least 4 or 5 years probably. So I'm excited for them because I know they got thrown into it last year a lot, and they were head spinning a little bit. But I'm excited for them and excited to build on them and a strong sophomore and junior class coming up. So we're looking forward to it for sure.
Same boat, we'll be young, small senior class as well. We're ready to go, fired up and anxious and can't wait for August to get here to get started. So, kids are ready. I'm ready. Coaching staff is excited, and expectations are high. We're going to try to win every game, and go from there. It's a tough schedule, but we're going to try to compete.
Big changes at Trinity Catholic this year, combining with Right Tech. I know you guys used to get a couple of the Right Tech players. Trinity, has always been the little team that could. Now they're changing. I mean, all of us have heard the rumors. Will they play? Will they play? When you look at Trinity and how it affects the Stamford tradition of football, what are your opinions of it, this change?
You want to go?
Yeah, go. That's fine. I mean, as far as the tradition of Stamford football, I mean, they've had really good teams in the past, So, kind of when we heard it was folding, selfishly, those guys needed somewhere to go. So I was a little excited for that. But now that they're back, it's if you sign up to go somewhere to play football, it stinks if you kind of get that taken away. So happy for those guys. Happy for Tom, who's taking over there. That they kind of got he was kind of pulled back and forth for a while. But it's good that they're there. I mean, again, I think it's something that we deal with as far as now we're getting split again in other ways, which we've dealt with in the past. So we just keep it going. But as far as Stamford as a whole for football, I'm excited. I like playing. We like having the city championship for sure, where we all play each other, and that kind of brings an extra added aspect to our season. So would have been tough to lose them on that. So we're excited that they're back.
Growing up in Stamford, I played football at Stamford High School, and we played Stamford Catholic, which is now Trinity Catholic. So it would have been pretty weird to go into a season not having Trinity on the schedule. So from that standpoint, I'm glad they're in, and we get an opportunity to play them. It's one of those games where the city comes out and it's packed, and the kids all know each other, and it's an exciting game. But like Coach Joey said, had they folded, we would have gladly taken on some of the athletes. They do have some athletes there, and some talent. So we would have kindly and definitely appreciated and accepted.
Conglomerate.
Yeah, it wouldn't have hurt at all, I guess.
So.
All right, guys. Thank you both for coming in tonight. Looking forward to this coming football season. Now, we want to have you back, bringing
Definitely.
players next time, everything.
Sure. Okay.
I'd love to see you throughout the year. I was looking over your schedule. There seem to be some chances this year. I mean, you both got it early. I think one of you got Darien, one of you got New Canaan early in the schedule. And I think you started against Staples, which is always a tough way to start at.
Yeah, we're home against Darien week 3. We open up against East Lyme. We take a nice bus ride.
Yeah.
But, like Coach said, we're setting out to win every game. I mean, we're ready to go.
Yeah,
so.
he's Darien week 3. I'm New Canaan week 3.
Yeah.
So.
All right.
So that'll be a fun party, but we're going to be ready to go no matter what. We're not laying down. We'll be ready.
All right. Well, we got to thank Jamar Greene from Stamford High, Joe DeVellis from Westhill High for coming in tonight, sharing what is going on in football right now. We're going to have them on during the season. Looking forward to hopefully a successful Stamford football season and Westhill football season. And this is Joe Ryan back on the scene. We will be back with you next week. Thank you very much for tuning in tonight.